Hi, I'm Carrie and welcome to my channel. Today is episode 9 in my 365 tarot spread series. We only got 3 more of these to go and they will be finished for this year. Amazing. But I went ahead and picked the spread and I did lay out the cards because I was having some issues shuffling with my finger, but so I kind of smush the cards around and pick them ahead of time. And the spread that we are doing this month is Past Lives of Lovers spread, which is a tongue twister for me to say. Apparently, I had to film that 3 different times. This is based on the movie Cloud Atlas. I think I saw that movie. I don't remember a single thing about it, but it says here Cloud Atlas contains 6 storylines, all of which, excluding one, are reincarnations of the same soul in different bodies. I like doing past life readings. I like doing different types of past life readings. When I started doing those types of readings, the only thing I had was just plain old oracle and plain old tarot to use. I didn't have any specialized decks. So I think this is a really great spread to show you using just a regular any tarot to use, and where you don't need to have those specialized decks if you don't want to. For me, when I go into looking into my own past lives, I'm I really want to know what the dynamic is. While it's cool to know who you were or something like that, I'm really looking at relationship dynamics, the um, maybe the turmoil or challenge or whatever that I was facing in that life, to see if there's any type of correlation or where something may be showing up in my life today. That's what's important to me for past life work. I've never been someone famous or and prominent. I don't feel anyway in prominent situations or um, anything like that in my past lives. But like I said, it doesn't matter to me who. Anyway, that was a whole tangent ramble. So this is going to tell you who you were in your past life, who your soulmate was in a past life, your relationship, was it stable? Did you have kids? Were you together a long time? The lesson that you learned together in that life, the lesson that you are learning in this life, and are you evolving and moving forward? Now, here's the thing about this. When I get down to these last 3 questions, it's like you are doing this for a reading of someone that you're currently with. And it says, like, what lesson did we learn together in our past life? Okay, I could see that one. What lesson are we learning in this life? Well, if you're not with that person now, then you know, I don't like the wording. Let's put it that way. I don't like the wording of the last 2 questions unless you are doing this to see if you and your partner had some sort of past life together. Okay, so I could see that then. But when I was looking over this spread, and I promise we'll get to it soon, but when I was looking over this spread, I thought this is a really great basic 9-card spread that you could use to figure out any of your past life dynamics or relationships. You just need to tweak the questions. So if you wanted to use this to uh, figure out if you and one of your best friends or whatever had a past life, you would just change this. Was my soul, who was my soulmate to, you know, were we friends in a past life? Something along those lines. You just have to tweak the questions. The thing I like about the 9-card spread is, I mean, I know they have it, and hopefully you are able to see this to screenshot it or whatever on camera. They have this laid out a little bit differently. I condensed mine into the block form. And the thing about that is you can look at the corners, the diagonals, the rows, the horizontal, the vertical rows, see what pairs up with what. You can get a whole bunch of information on this one topic or this one life just from these 9 cards. I'm going to try to like bring that forward when I'm giving the example of this reading. So I'm going to get this book set up and then we're going to dive into this. Okay. Hopefully this book does not tip over in the middle of this reading because it is like barely propped up. So if you were to lay this out like it has in the book, this card number 3 would be in this position, and all these cards would be pushed down further. All right, we're going to start here in the corner. This is who I was in a past life. With the 6 of Swords here, I would see myself as a loner because she is moving away from difficult situations, dramas, or whatever. That's what your typical 6 of Swords is. But that's how I would see this, is I would see myself as a loner. Maybe I stuck to myself. It could be that I was on the outside of family, or I was trying to distance myself from family, or something along those lines. I would also probably see myself as a female, only because the person on the card is a female moving away from the situation. So I would probably just lock into that. Then we come over here to card number 2. Who was my soulmate in a past life? And it's the Lover's card. So if I went by the imagery of the card, I could see this as maybe I had multiple lovers, just because of the depiction on the card, if I let that sway me during this reading. And it would be whatever I was intuitively feeling in that moment. If you look at this, he's turned his back on this person and is now holding on to this person. Is he making a choice for her, or is this, are they all in this together? Which, fine, whatever. But so it's going to depend on what your intuition would be bringing forward for you in regards to this. But since we are looking at who was my soulmate in a past life, I would say that it was someone that I had a deep desire for, that we had a deep connection with. And because the 6 of Cups is directly below this card, I might also see this as it was an arranged marriage or an arranged connection, because of the 6 of Cups here, which, when I tell you what this card answers, maybe you will see it that way also. So I would say that I had a very deep connection with this person, because it's the Lover's card, that, maybe we connected on all levels with each other, not just on the physical or mental, but there was that deep love for one another. So card number 3 is, what was our relationship? And it's the reverse Knight of Cups. And that's the only reverse card on the table. And I find that really interesting, that the reverse Knight of Cups is describing what the relationship was. So whether I chose this person, or if this person was chosen for me, or if it was a multiple person situation, there was, I think, a lot of jealousy and negative emotions happening here in this dynamic. And with that, I find it very interesting that I am represented as the 6 of Swords. So maybe as much as I love this person, because of the jealousy and everything, I could have chosen to leave it. We could look at this row, answering those questions right there. Okay, so we're going to come down here to card number 4. Was it a stable relationship? With the Judgment card, I could see this 2 ways, that maybe we held each other accountable for our actions, or maybe I finally took accountability for what I brought to this relationship. And was it stable? Because this falls directly under me, I'm going to say that I tried to be the stable force in this relationship, because of where the position of this card is. And it's far away over here from the Lover's card, who is representing the soulmate. So, and now the jealousy is actually between us both. So there could have been jealousy on both levels. But I started to take accountability for what I was bringing to this, how I was responding maybe to this, and was trying to turn our relationship in a different direction because of where this is positioned. Okay, so Card number 5 is, did we have children? With the Four of Cups, I'm going to say that answer is no. I think that there was a lot of thought maybe put into the choice of whether or not I wanted to have children. But I think, and I'm going to go like this, if we look at this V here between these three cards, that it ended up being a mutual choice between us because they both connect to this, not to have children, that it just really wasn't something that interests us at the time. That's how I'm going to see this Four of Cups energy. And then over here for position number 6, were we together a long time? And this is where I feel that it was possibly an arranged marriage, an arranged setup of some sort, because it's the Six of Cups. So this tells me that I've known this person from my past, that maybe it was a family, it could even represent like a family friend, something along those lines, where there was some sort of long-term connection between this person and my family or me from the past. And since there's a child here, maybe we knew each other from childhood, that sort of thing. Maybe our families knew each other from childhood, like I said, and possibly arranged this marriage. That's why I was feeling that in the beginning. Then we're going to come down here to question number 7. And what lesson did we learn together in our past life? And it's the Emperor. So I feel like there was a lot of issues about control in this relationship. There was maybe each of us trying to insert our dominance in some way over this. If there was other parties involved, like I mentioned earlier, maybe that's where this jealousy comes in. Maybe that's where this manipulation, this control energy comes in. And we had a lot to be accountable for. And since this falls in line with my side, I would see this as the primary issue might have been with me. Even though it says that, we, and I guess we could look at it this way, the diagonal here, I would see this as I finally realized my part in this. I finally realized, maybe the toxicity or what this was bringing to the relationship, this element of control, trying to control this person or the outcome of what was going on. And I rose above that and I chose to go a different path. I could see that this way. My soulmate, though, with the Four of Cups and then the Emperor, I would see this as they didn't want to face the control issues that they had. They didn't want to look at where the problem lied, maybe within them. They didn't want to admit or see any of the issues that were stirred up from their side of it. You could read this diagonal like that. And then we're going to come down here to card number 8. What lesson are we learning in this life? So whether this person is still in your life or not, this really could still relate to you. Like I said, I don't like the wording of the last 2 questions. So what lesson are we learning in this life, or what lesson am I learning in this life in regards to this past life? You could see it like that. If you just wanted to focus on you, maybe you wanted to dive into a past lover of yours, and was there some sort of past life connection that things were, or karma or whatever was still working itself out in your relationship, that sort of thing. You could use that, this same spread for that. So what lesson am I learning? I'm going to change that in this life now regarding this relationship. And it's the Wheel of Fortune. And I'm going to see this as, sure, fate plays a hand in certain things and maybe certain people coming into our life, but then I have a hand in that situation also. And I can make the choice of whether or not to be with that person or whether or not to move away. And that maybe destiny isn't always set in stone like we think it is. And by changing our trajectory and admitting or living up to or owning up to our shortcomings in some way. Maybe we can shift the wheel. I could see it like that. I think it's really interesting on this card that shows this woman pregnant on this card, and right above it was the card about not having children, or whether or not we had children. And I said it was a mutual choice, that we, neither one of us wanted children. And then you've got this pregnant image down here. You can maybe bring children into that aspect if you want to focus in on that. And then the card above it, that just happened to stick out to me right now while I was looking at these cards. And it's interesting that if we look at this triangle right here, this card also has children on it. So that could be another thing that's brought in, where I chose not to have children in this lifetime, but maybe that is something that is weighing on me now. I don't know. There's all kinds of things that you can see from this. And then, are we evolving and moving forward? So I would say this: am I evolving and moving forward? Unless I'm diving into someone currently that I'm in a relationship with currently. So am I evolving and moving forward? I would say yes here with the temperance, that it's every day, it's a balance act. Every day you have to step into that judgment energy and see things for how they are, and see your place in everything and your choices and where that led you, and what you're choosing to do. Because we've got this here, from me to the Four of Cups to this balance. It could be, I can't keep maybe ignoring life or ignoring what is going on around me, and I need to be more present with that temperance and what I am dealing with and what is going on. For this row, for the other person, the soulmate person, maybe what they're learning is, because we have the Six of Cups here, that they can't bring everything up from their past. They can't keep living in the past. I'm going to say that with the Six of Cups. They can't keep living in the past, and that they need to find a better balance with that, where they're constantly comparing things to the past, bringing that up, bringing that forward, instead of learning how to cope and deal with the things that are happening in the moment here. And then if you wanted to step outside of those questions for the placement, and you just wanted to look at this overall as a past life reading, you could look at this row right here with the jealousy at the top and the wheel of change at the fortune with the Four of Cups in the middle. You could see this as jealousy is what made the change in this relationship. When the jealousy factor entered in and the negative emotions surrounding that came behind that, it basically checked both of you out. Neither one of you wanted to be a participant in this relationship anymore. I would see this as the key that changed the dynamic of this relationship altogether, because of what is here between the two cards of you and them, and then the line down this way of what it would say. You could actually see this line. This started with the question, was it a stable relationship? So we could read it as a 3-card spread instead of just the single card. You could do that. So there was a lot of soul searching on my end about the relationship in general, and the lack of enthusiasm, the lack of passion with this Four of Cups, the lack of kind of desire was very prominent between the two of us. Again, that V. And what maybe seemed exciting or drew you to this person when you guys were younger quickly faded in the relationship once you were, together, committed, or whatever. That excitement and thrill from the past was no longer present. I would see that as was the relationship stable, or gives more insight actually into what the relationship was. Okay, so if you wanted, because this isn't addressed in the spread at all, if you wanted to figure out, well, what happened to us? What happened to this relationship? Because that's not here. You could look at this last row as maybe the answer to that. So with the emperor, you could see this as possibly somebody stepping in, maybe a father figure of one of the two of you stepping in, and they created the change in the dynamic of this relationship. They were basically the hand that dealt fate or whatever between these two cards right here, because both of these cards lead down to this emperor. And with judgment here being between like you and this card, I would say that maybe it was your father who stepped in and had a hand in changing the dynamic of this relationship with the Wheel of Fortune. So now we have the balance, the temperance card here. And what I would say to this is that it, when this person stepped in to change this dynamic, there was a better balance in the relationship. Especially if this was a time whether you couldn't divorce each other or separate or whatever the scenario may have been. There was a better balance to the dynamic, but I would still say that you, because of this, were not happy. And with the Six of Cups below this person, I almost get that they were very immature in their outlook of relationships or life, maybe in general, thinking that it should be one way and that, that's not really how the world works, kind of thing. So there was a kind of a shift in the balance. So since I'm all invested in this reading, let's pick a card that shows what the outcome of this commitment, this relationship, this marriage, whatever it was. I'm going to say it was a marriage with the Lovers, but let's see here. I'm trying not to hurt my finger, but oh, okay. So what was the outcome? Oh, the Ten of Wands. Okay, so the whole relationship all the way to the end was nothing but a burden. So I love past life readings. I mean, if you can't tell, I love doing past life readings. I think they're really interesting and bring a lot of information forward for you to think about and chew on. So let me know what you thought of this spread. I'm going to play around with this 9-card spread and see what else I can get out of this. Like I said, you could use this for any type of relationship. You could actually assign certain things to these rows, like my relationship, my family, and whatever else you want it to be, or you can assign different things vertically and, do a past life reading that way. Let me know if you do past life readings in the comments below. I would love to hear, and maybe what your favorite spread is. For those kinds of readings. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you being here. Don't forget to do all the YouTube things, like, share, subscribe to see more from me. And until I see you next time, bye.